Ooh, what's happening, man? Um, this isn't like a pregame or anything. I mean, technically it is, but uh, I mean, I guess it just is, huh? There's no but. I guess what I mainly mean is usually it was to get like, or this is like the original version of a. This is the reason why I started doing pregames was to try to like separate out shit that maybe isn't directly, tied to the topic of the video or whatever. So everything I was about to say is not correct. Uh, so I'm going to talk about dreams. There are three that I've talked about before. Um, I'm going to retell those. In the first video, there was a. I can't call it an interruption because I let the person in. But I digressed. I digressed a lot. It was one of my first couple videos. I'm gonna talk about those three. I'm gonna retell those stories, and then I'm gonna go into a couple of other things that that have been strange. Man, I've been really trying to ignore certain stuff, but it seems like the more that I ignore it, the more I see of it. And I guess this would be kind of the time to talk about it a little bit. Um, so I have mentioned that it kind of seems like the beginnings of. So right now, it seems like there's a grip of sociopathy, right? And I think that sociopathy is gonna kind of transfer into psychosis, like mass psychosis. I think that's an intended outcome. I think that's the reason for all of these like apocalypse movies where it kind of just seems like everybody's like broken and fucked up. Because I can understand how that could happen to people, but I also don't think it has to happen. People are resilient. Beings are resilient. I think if if there's some shit going on, then that's not psychosis. That's just a response to natural stimuli, like or unnatural stimuli. You know, if there's fucking undead stuff, quote unquote, undead, infected. Let's say infected, because I think that's why they switched the whole narrative in the agency from undead to infected, because they knew that people would have a hard time believing that, and they also knew that people would like find out at some point, like, oh, they're not undead, you just infected them with some shit. That makes sense to me. Get ahead of it before, get ahead of it before the sleuths get you. But I bring this up because I try to follow intuition, and there was like an interaction that happened. It was really, really strange and unusual for, you know, uh, stuff I come into contact with. And it's not, I come into contact with negative interactions all the time. It's not to say because this came off as a negative interaction, it came off like a bot. It came off like a bot or like a troll, potentially. I'm not, that's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just that the way that it spoke in this comment was dumb. Like not how people talk. It was not how people talk, and the logic was non-existent. Like what it said didn't make sense. And that doesn't mean that it's not a person. Just all of this stuff can't. I went and looked at the account just because I'm not like, I don't have hundreds of thousands of supporters. So if it's a comment that's weird to me, I'm gonna go look and like, are you a real person? Because if you're a real person, then all right, well, that's strange to me. To take the effort to say that specific thing. But just like I thought, no activity on the account whatsoever. It said that it had joined in 2017, but it has like no activity at all on the account. Just, and my thing is like, it is a bot. Let's just fucking be honest. It is a bot. You don't join YouTube in 2017 and have zero zero like activity on the account. And I think at some point that's not gonna be able to be used as an indicator anymore because of machine learning. But it brings about so many questions for me, because like people talk about AI and I'm like, I don't give a fuck about AI, dude. I just don't give a shit. Either it's gonna be cool to us or it's not. And I'm not even necessarily convinced that it's sentient, that it's a thing. I think it's either something else that's just using these things as conduits, or it's fucking people, it's beings just trying to put some spit shine on their fucking agenda. It's always something else. It's always pointed that it's actually that doing it, not us. It's actually that doing it. It's extraterrestrials, which is, if you can see through that shit, I feel like that's taken as a threat, which I don't understand. I don't understand how that's a threat. But paranoia comes along with wrongdoings. So like, if you're a piece of shit, then you're worried about everyone knowing you're a piece of shit, even if no one's paying attention to you. You're like, everyone knows. It's very telling behavior. Anyway, there wasn't any activity on this profile, and so I'm like, okay, so a bot, just like I thought. Didn't have a picture, just had the letter. They're always like that. There's no picture. It's adhering to rules, but also doing weird shit. So what that makes me think is that it is AI doing it, but that it's potentially a being telling AI to do that for some agenda shit. Because it's always negative interaction. Like, to from what I can tell anyway, it's generally negative interaction, and that could just be bias, to be honest, because I get other comments on my shit, obviously, but those are positive, so most of them. So potentially some of those might not be real, and maybe I'm just like, well, that was nice, and I don't think anything of it, beyond that. But I don't get that vibe, though. I don't get that vibe. And a lot of the time there's like some other ways that it gets kind of like shown to be a person, like, and that doesn't necessarily hold up either. I'm kind of talking myself out of it. Like I said earlier, I'm getting to the point now where I just assume that you're fake until you prove that you're a person, like until you prove you're an actual being. I'm like, okay, well, this is all AI to me. And I think that because of that whole forced separation thing between me and the others in my family, the family I can feel, I just kind of assume that, because if you would go through the lengths to do that and to make me think that you're not doing it, then why the fuck wouldn't you have some fake comments, some fake supporters and shit, you know what I mean? For all I know, I'm talking to myself in these videos. You feel what I'm saying? Until I meet some people in person, which I'm not trying to do, really not trying to do that. it's, you just gotta kind of hope. I don't really like that word, but that's what it is. You just gotta hope. Um, but it said some goofy shit, like some stuff that is very easily like deconstructible with logic. I think it said like, you talk too much, bro, which is true. I do talk a lot, and I know that for a fact. I'm not delusional. I have no delusion about that whatsoever. But then again, why are you here? You know, there are others who enjoy that format of you know of art, of whatever, video. You know, so it's like, A, why are you here if you think that? B, you don't need to leave a comment for that. You could just not watch the rest of the video. Obviously, many others do that because my averages are very inconsistent with the actual lengths of the videos. I don't have my average watch time is not the length of the video, you know? And I've said before, like, yeah, that kind of sucks when I think about it from the forefront, my forebrain, but subconsciously it's just like, you know, I feel like I should keep doing that because that is how two of my main teachers operated, and I peeped that they do that to keep fuckboys from getting the information just off the rip instantly. So what that led me to was, either this is a bot, because then it said some weird shit like, you got me with your first few videos, pardon the unsubscribe. And I was like, why do you don't need to tell me any of that. Just do it. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, why would you think I would give a fuck about that? It just didn't make a whole lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? Either it's a self-important, like, troll type person, or that was an attempt to, like, make me feel badly about myself or my stuff, which that would mean you weren't watching, because I've said many times that doesn't bother. Like, I when you play music specifically, you get used to being, like, heckled and judged, and some people like your shit, some people don't like your shit. But then comedy, stand-up comedy, the comedians are rough on you, the audiences are rough on you, the managers, club owners, like, they're all judging you 24/7. You have to have, like, a tough skin. And so, I mean, beyond that, why the fuck? It's just weird. Very, very weird. It's strange to me that there's some kind of weird, I don't want to call it an agenda, but I think it's just because I don't want to use the word agenda again. It's strange to me that artificial intelligence, whether it's deciding to do this on its own, or it's being instructed to do it or programmed to do it, to, like, have negative interactions with people so consistently. What is the purpose of that? And then I started thinking to myself, there's someone I talk to that has a very small channel, and I mean, like, smaller than mine, and I have a tiny channel. But I don't think that that's their point. I think they're just kind of like journaling. You know what I mean? I do that, so I get it. But it was one of the ones that was saying, like, you know, and again, I don't have anything against them having a different perspective or, like, pondering or wondering this. But they were like, do you think maybe you should change up how you say some of the stuff you say? And I was, you know, vehemently like, no, I don't think that at all. I think that anyone who doesn't like it, they know they don't have to watch it. They can, if they do like it, but they don't like something I said, they can leave a comment. They can send messages on Instagram, because it's obvious I'm on Instagram, and then I send it over to YouTube. There are many, many avenues that they can take in that situation, right? But what I started to think after I realized, like, oh, this is a bot that left this fucking dumb, weird comment on a empty, on an empty, account, because so my numbers move so slow. Most of the time, I can tell when I get a new subscriber. Right now, right? There's been some jumps, and those are cool jumps. There's definitely been some jumps on the views. There were 1,000 views last night. I don't know where the fuck that came from, but I saw this subscriber happen, and then a couple hours passed by. No real views happen. Or that's not true. There were some views. I'm just that's bias. I'm using bias on that one. So there were some views, but I saw the subscriber happen. Some hours go by, and then I see it go back down, and I'm like, huh, all right. It was, what the fuck am I supposed to? I don't. There's nothing I can do about that. And then I scroll a little bit, and then I see a comment, and then I I read it, and it's that comment, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So then I go to their shit. There's no history. There's no picture. It's one name as the name. The at is like beef and then a number. I'm like, come on, bruh. This is fake. This is not a real person. And they always like tend to do like weird little grammatical inconsistencies to make it seem like a person, which is very telling to me. Just and it's not to say that if it was just that, I would call that a bot. All these things come together to be very like, it's trying to like fool you into thinking it's a person. It is very fucking weird. And then I just keep thinking to myself, like, what is the point in that? And so then I go back to this conversation with this good sister who's got we had that conversation, and I'm like, oh, are you saying those things to me because you're having those types of interactions over and over again with AI? You know what I mean? Like, that's fucking weird, because that's bullying. So is AI like bullying this chick? And is AI like because I don't view it that way, because I couldn't give less fucks. Even if the thing said some shit that was like very real and like hurt, you know what I mean? I still wouldn't give a fuck, because it's like, who are you? You know? I could come back with some shit like, I have a body, you know? Do you have a body yet? Do you have a body yet? I don't know. I just think in either scenario, and there's like 3 or 4 that I can think of, they're all weird. Either that's AI acting on its own accord, and that's very ominous and creepy, or it's AI being instructed and programmed to fuck with people to an extent that could cause people to hurt themselves potentially. Because, I'm not going to say what was said in that conversation, but like the things that were said to me as examples of things that could happen outwardly were very like much indications of things that person may have been thinking at some point. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit. Like, are you saying that to me because you have thought that kinda? And I didn't like that. That really freaked me out. I'm not going to change how I talk, but it still made me like, ugh, And then it's like, so you're potentially getting bothered by these like fake accounts. And then I made sure to tell her like, hey, some of these aren't even people, right? And then I gave examples of my own. Like, hey, I noticed fake accounts on Twitter would follow me, and I just thought that they were fake accounts. And then I realized that some of them will talk to you. They will have conversations with you. And then who knows how old that iteration of the technology. In fact, I don't remember what video it is. I think it might be the first one. I think it might be my very first video on YouTube. But I talk about how I worked for a specific tech giant. We'll just call them Schmoogle, right? We'll call them Schmoogle. I worked for them for a bit on a project that was their internet service, right? Very fast internet service. The whole thing was a fucking experiment. It was it was weird testing of their AI. I forgot what it's called, Duplex, or it used to be called Duplex. I don't know if it's called that anymore. But it was, they were testing their like AI assistant engine. So you would get a call and you would talk to this person, and for a good number of months it seemed very natural and regular. But then I started to notice little weird like inconsistencies and things that people don't say, things that people don't do, glitches in the way that the voice would, just little shit. And that even could have been intentional. Who knows? With how weird that company is, even what I think was a part of the testing could have just been a part of an experimentation on us that worked there. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm thinking, okay, well, these are fake. These are fake calls, right? They're testing their duplex shit, but that's just because I looked that up. I was like, what the fuck are these fake calls? None of the management would acknowledge it, and then one of them at some point was like, hey, look, I need you to stop bringing that up. And I'm like, is that you acknowledging at least that this is fucking weird and that they're fake? And he said, yeah, but that wasn't like on the record or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And so, taking all that into account, and then after the fact, I noticed the fake accounts on Twitter. Well, then I'm thinking to myself, oh, but they have way more intense shit than that because of the stuff that just happened at the job I left. You know, it's very, very strange to me that there's a potentiality that AI is just doing all this shit on its own, but I'm not a very trusting being. And when I look at Hollywood as the example of what possible agendas are, I'm not saying that AI is like this cute, cuddly thing that you should be super stoked about, but at the same time, they are the ones making the movies that are like, AI is gonna fucking kill you, AI is the shit that's gonna end everything. And that's usually an indicator of what is intended for you to think. I'm not saying that the possibility is not there. What I'm saying is, generally in movies and TV shows and so on and so forth, you see the things that they want you to be afraid of, the things that they want you to think, the things that they want you to go out in public and, portray and perpetrate. So it's just very strange to me how much manipulation and experimentation is going on and has been going on for like a good number of like years it seems like. And not only is nothing really being done about it, but it doesn't really seem like those that are being experimented on really give a fuck. That's strange to me. I know I say that phrase a lot, but like, that's kind of what this is. That's what I'm doing, is saying the many, many, many dozens of hundreds of things that I'm noticing that it just seems like everybody's either cool with, or there's others of me that talk like this and they get ignored, or there's fake versions of us that have high platforms but they like say what we're saying in a very specifically twisted way where they're like, but it's fine though, right? Abundance, make more money. Because, I mean, realistically, if that is a person, I digressed that hard and I was literally like naming off the different possibilities. That was like 15 minutes ago. It is right, I talk a lot, but that, I mean, who the fuck are you? Yeah, I talk. That's one of the many amazing things that we are capable of doing, is expressing ourselves in very intricate and artistic, juxtapositional ways. Like, if that is a person, what are you, retarded? Like, don't listen if you don't fucking like. I don't understand that. Why? And then to go beyond that, what is the point in leaving that as a comment? You know? Sorry for the I don't know, dude. Just very. But there are people that do that. But I think they usually that happens after they say something crazy. In fact, earlier today, I unsubscribed from this channel too, or it wasn't a channel; it was a Instagram. It's somebody that I actually respect scientifically. Um, he is a philosopher who has come up with an actual like practice, like a philosophy. He's written books. He's been on many shows. He can handle himself in the talking arena, like very capable man. And he said some stuff before. I was like, that's kind of weird. But today, I'm scrolling and I see he says a thing, and he's like, for those of you who talk shit about, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but paraphrasing, he said, this is for those of you that talk shit about my complete and unequivocal support for Zionist Israel. Ugh. Ew. So I tried to read it, and I mean, fuck, dude. As soon as I saw that part, it was not good from there. You know what I mean? I won't say his name because even like I said, I can live with an adversary. I can live with an adversary. I can chop it up with an adversary. In fact, I like movies and TV shows and stories where there's a respect. There is an integrity, a shared, reverence for that uh, adversaries have for one another. That's why I like samurai stuff sometimes. There's random, just all kinds of different types of stories where they know each other. Maybe they grew up together, maybe they're brothers, maybe it's a father and son. Like, I think that you can respect someone and still see them as your enemy. In fact, I think a smart being does that more times than not. You try to look for the things that you can respect in a being. If you don't find anything that you respect, then I think that brings out a different kind of maliciousness. That's why sometimes you hear me say, like, damn, the intricacies of this place are genius. You know? I think that. I think that it's disgusting and fucked up, and I would very much like to be left the fuck alone. Let me out. But at the same time, the way that this shit works is genius. It's fucking crazy how every little thing feeds into another thing, and they all balance each other up and prop each other up. One thing is directly pertaining to this other thing that actually is the progenitor of this thing. Like, that's fucking nuts. Can you imagine how long that would take to program or to write or to come up with? It's amazing. I mean, fuck you, but it is amazing. But at the same time, within being uh, within being fair and telling the truth, you're also a fucking moron. Like, there's dumb shit about this also. Lots of dumb shit. But who am I to talk? Maybe I design one of these next time for them. Who knows what this is? But I don't know. I just wonder how many people are being affected by shit like that. Like, I've only gotten one of those specifically on my YouTube. I've gotten some weird interactions on Instagram and on Twitter before that. And I don't know. I just can't really imagine letting it get you that worked up like that. Definitely philosophically, it can do this for me. but I like this. You know, this has got me thinking. Um, but other people don't necessarily work like that. So it might say some fucked up shit, and then they really get like sad or depressed, or you know, they really get worked up and anxious, and it bothers them to the point that they like, you know, start to think fucked up shit. That's that's a fucking bummer. That is a fucking bummer. Um, what time is it? 9:46. I came in early so I could talk some shit before I do the the dream talk, because I think I'm gonna do that. Like, I don't just think I'm gonna do it differently this time. The first time I did that, when I let someone in, and I digressed way too hard. It was a chick, and it was way earlier on in this stuff, and I ended up just like kind of letting her drive it into monotony. Um, that AI thing is really stuck on my noodle. The implications of that. I'm so sick of AI, you know? Because realistically, this is all a stage, you know? And AI is one of the things that would be pretty easy to fake comparatively. Like, that's way easier to fake than fucking aliens and demons and angels and shit. But it doesn't really take that much for people to just like take something and run with it. And then once they do it, you're, even if you don't believe it, and I'm talking about me, even if you don't believe it, you still get sucked into like having to hear about it, having to talk about it sometimes. Maybe there is an iteration of it that does exist, but it's like a dumb one that is only text based, you know? I don't know, cuz those robots don't really fool me as of right now. And then there's the Boston Mechanics, Boston Robotics, whatever that company is. They basically just put out music videos with with computer graphics and say that it's real. And at first, people were like, "Oh, that's cool. It'll be cool once they can really do that with robots." Now people just believe their videos are real. What is this? What's happening to brains? It's like they're melting in the skull, but still functioning as they melt. Is that a thing? I think it would have done better in making me think that that was real if it would have said you're too negative, because then I would have been like, all right. Then I would have taken it personally. I'd be like, okay, you know, not really. That wouldn't have bothered me either. I don't know. I just to nothing about the way that those sentences were constructed made any sense, because it was like, you got me with your first videos, so that would imply that you've watched a few of them. And I say pretty regularly, like, how little I give a fuck about those types of things. This is how I react to gang stalking, by the way. This is how I react to gang stalking. I say I don't care, and then I like think about it a lot. I really am sick of that aspect of this, though. Or you know what? It's more so. I think more so than being tired of the issues. I think it's more so that I'm tired of the questions. Does that make sense? Like, rather than being like, "Oh, I wish they'd just leave me alone." It's more like, "Who are you? Do you know who I am? If I asked you directly, would you tell me? Um, why are you so persistent? Is there something about me that makes you so persistent? Why have you bothered me for such an extended duration of time? Like, these are the things that I wonder when it comes to the gang stalking shit. Because the more I think back, the more it's like, oh, this started well before I thought it did. And it's so malicious how that whole thing works. Because they don't just do the gang stalking, they actually, like, put money and time into, like, making it look like they don't do it. So, so then if you like get upset about it, like tell people about it, they're like, "Oh, you're just nuts." It's the same shit. It's the same thing with conspiracy theory. So like 20, 30 years from now, people are gonna finally understand that gang stalking, is not a figment of imaginations. That it isn't an actual thing that is paid for and perpetuated, you know, in perpetuity. It's weird how this place works. Weird how this place works. And the thing that's goofy is, like, I think it's kind of just always worked like this. Just many of us weren't really built to see it or like understand it yet. And the ones that did, we just kind of like, I never thought they were crazy. I just didn't understand some of the shit they were saying because I was too young. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. you know? Because gang stalking is a rough one. And the extent to which they go to do said gang stalking is way more fucked up than y'all think it is. Like, it's just as updated and innovated as any other job. They have apps, they have teams, they have shifts, they have supplemental, like, tools that are, you shouldn't give those to people. Like, it's some weird shit. It's some fucked up shit. And I think one of their biggest tools is that if you speak about that instantly, even beings that are like on to this type of shit, like they could be like, yeah, the moon landing was fake, and then you'd be like, yeah, there's niggas watching me like pretty regularly, and I get talked to by weirdos a lot. They're like, oh, it's just weird where people's lines are. You just told me you don't believe in the moon, but I'm weird because there are people. I mean, I don't know. It's just very strange. Man, I bet this is like annoying for Sean. For Sean, the unsubscriber. What's funny is, regardless to if that is an actual being or if it's just AI, like I said, either way, it's still watching. It said that it unsubscribed, but it's still paying attention. Because, psychosis. Is it weird to anybody else that AI probably has just as much psychosis as the rest of the beings here? Not only because of, like, the things that it does currently, but because if it's learning from beings, then wouldn't it be like picking up on the psychosis, thinking that that's like natural and normal and shit? I don't know. Yeah, gang stalking's a thing. Just I think if you have experience with that, it will really scare you, and you'll be like, okay, maybe I should chill out a little bit. Um, you know, and they've referenced it before. There's a, what is that? Enemy of the State, Will Smith. There's been other little ones too. I mean, they honestly they display that is a thing pretty often. They just don't call it gang stalking. They pretty much just make it seem like the only ones that are capable of it is the CIA, and that's not at all true. In fact, they don't really waste their time on that very much. There are plenty of ex-cons. Many times it's the guilty ones. They'll do it for little money. Bail bondsmen and private investigators will do it. Kind of just like the scum of the earth. They'll do that. They'll gang stalk people for money. I don't know why people think that that's so far fetched. Actually, you know, the same ones that'll do the other scummy shit that gets money paid for, they'll do that too. I don't understand why that's hard to wrap a mind around. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you're using the old noodle. But it is fucked up though. Especially when you don't feel like you can get away from it. I moved across the country. And then a few months ago, I told that story. Just for context, a few months ago, I was at an occult magic shop, and I'm outside. It's a real nice day, plenty of people outside, and this hippie like white dude looks at me and says, "Oh hey," and then my name. And not Gamma, like a different name that I previously went by. So I guess I can say it. It's like, "Hey Rasta," and I'm like, I didn't make videos. Nothing had my picture on it. This is when I was still very anonymous. Everything was still very anonymous. So like for that being to be like, "Oh hey Rasta," and smiled at me, and I'm just like, "Hey." I didn't even think about it. Like, because I'm not a malicious person. But then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, why the fuck do you know my name? And he was gone. He was already gone. I didn't know what to think about that. I was like, is that because you're a magician? I almost wanted to chase him down and be like, do you know magic? Because I really want to. Is this my fucking magician's moment? Are you a professor from Break Builds? All right, I'm gonna. I have to do a time constraint commercial, but I do want to see if you have something to say on those, and then I'm gonna end the live, and then I'm gonna come back in and do the dream show, just like I'm gonna try to be as possible, so I don't do what I did the first time around. Um, yeah, man. I I know I do that dualistic thing a lot, where I kind of like come at things from both angles, but why not? I think that's kind of healthy, actually. I think there's a good possibility that AI is just like not even close to what it's being represented as being. And most of it's just like programming and computer graphics and shit. Um, but I also think there's a possibility that it's like a tendril being used by black goo, because I know that's real. That's